Thank you everyone for joining me. My name is Jason Levine. Ooh, it seems very present, that audio right now. Sounds great, Paul. Don't change anything. I wasn't knocking it. Okay, so for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking to you about creating motion graphics templates in both Premiere Pro and After Effects, and essentially the differences between creating them in the different applications. And for those of you joining us on Facebook Live, nice to see you again. We've got one, actually this is the last one of the day, isn't it? The last live stream. No, we've got one more. One more to go, all right. So thank you for joining us. Okay, so the Essential Graphics panel was introduced in April of this year, really as a replacement for the classic Premiere Pro titler. A new way to create graphics right on screen, right on canvas, without having to take you out of the application, without having to take you out of that creative flow. The previous legacy titler was a modal dialog, meaning that you had to click away from the timeline, do your title, do your graphic, click out of it, drag it into the timeline, and if you wanted to make a change, double-click back, open up the dialog again. It was a lot of back and forth, and it really kind of took you out of that creative editing zone. Now with Essential Graphics, you create it right on screen before you, and unlike the previous titler, you can create these motion graphics as templates, save them to a CC library, and share them with others, and they can also, of course, be further augmented by creating them in After Effects, and you can do some really amazing things. I'm going to show you both of those. So just to start, let's go ahead and just make a very simple basic title here. And in fact, maybe I'll do it off of the same piece of footage. So I'm going to make a new clip. And yeah, maybe we'll have it start right about there. That looks pretty good. And to begin the process of making a title, all I simply have to do is grab my text tool and click right into the program monitor. And we'll call this The Vast Horizon. Now, when I type that on screen, you'll see that we have some align and transform controls. Let's go ahead and align this to the horizontal center. Then you've got your position, anchor point, rotation, opacity controls, master styles. We'll get there in just a moment. Under text, now this is a new feature in Essential Graphics. We now have the Photoshop style font menu where we can do our sorting. We can sort by typekit fonts. And perhaps for this, I'm looking for Paralucent. I like Paralucent. I use this one a lot. So we can change the font here. We can adjust the style. I like extra light. That looks pretty good. And again, fill, color, stroke, and drop shadow. Okay. Now, what we're actually doing inside of Essential Graphics is we're building up a layer stack. So you can see we have a text layer with the familiar eyeball icon to turn it on and off. And then we can add additional layers. We can add text, we can add shapes, or we can bring in elements from a file. We can bring in JPEGs, we can bring in our logo via a ping with transparency. We can even bring in video, and that can be part of your motion graphics template as well. Well, I'm going to do a little sort of divider line here. So let's grab our rectangle tool, switch over to my shortcut key V, and let's just make a little line to kind of divide this. Place this right under our text. I'm going to do that same horizontal alignment, and maybe we'll change the fill color to something kind of blue, like that, and adjust the opacity to something like that as well. And then we'll do another text layer. I can choose a text layer, or I can simply just start typing here. And we'll call this a film by Jason Levine. It isn't, but we're just going to type that for now. We'll place this down here. And I'm going to resize this text a little bit. All right, like that. And let's do our horizontal alignment again. Now, one new feature that you have in this latest version of Essential Graphics is that you can actually multi-select all layers at the same time. Also, if you hold down Shift when you click on a layer, you can constrain movement horizontally or vertically. So this was added just recently. Okay, so now we've got a very basic title happening here. And maybe on that, a film by text, we'll add a little drop shadow just so that kind of pops out a bit more, not quite that much. Let's adjust the opacity there, just because we've got it kind of white text over a white background there. Okay. So now I want to do a little bit of animation. Well, the cool thing is that you do all of this in the effects controls, so nothing changes in the way that you've animated previously. So if I want to fly the text on, or adjust opacity over time, whatever it is, it all happens inside of this panel here. So we can start with the vast horizon text. So maybe that fades on right as sort of, you can see as we're kind of revealing the shadow there. Let's go ahead and do a slight opacity change. So we'll start at 100%. That'll be the finished opacity at 100%. Wind this back. Right, it fades on. Let's twirl down to our shape layer here. Maybe that comes in a little bit later. So it's at an opacity, a final opacity of 63. Set it to 0 here. And maybe we'll have a film by Jason Levine, again, comes in even later. 100%. And again, and maybe we'll even wind this back. Okay? And while we're at it, let's go ahead and add some effects to this. So I'm going to add a directional blur to the entire thing. And we won't go too extreme on this. Okay? So final blur length of 0. Starting blur length, just so I can see it here, maybe of around, say, 50%. Okay? So the final animation looks like this. Okay? And maybe we'll even do a little bit of easing on that and do a continuous Bezier. And same here, we'll do a little bit of easing on all of these keyframes. All right? Okay. So that's the basis of creating an animated title here in Essential Graphics. And we can actually probably go to full quality on this too. All right? Something like that. Now, I might want to use this same styled title multiple times. That's kind of the essence of making a template. So before I do that, I'm going to click on this. Let's click on this A Film by Jason Levine text. And we're going to set up a master style. I really like the way that looks with the drop shadow, lowercase, whatever, in paralucent and extra light. And we'll call this VHJL title. And the style of that text now will be preserved inside the motion graphics template. So let's go ahead and export this as a template. And all we have to do is give it a name, and we'll call this Fast HJL title. And I choose where I want it to go. Now we can save this to the Essential Graphics panel natively inside the app, or we can save it to one of our CC libraries. Now again, particularly on the After Effects side, if I'm the After Effects motion designer and I'm creating these for my editor, you want to save them to a CC library. That way your editor is there doing his or her thing. They save it to a shared library and it just shows up. They don't have to do anything. It's just there, available to them. So I'm going to save it to a CC library called Jason's Library and click OK. And I'm now going to take this same template and duplicate it a couple of times, okay? And I'm going to change the text on each instance. So the first one here, maybe we'll start with some sort of movie style credits, assistant producer, nice. And let's, what's an assistant producer? That's not even a role. Let's do associate producer. And this will be, we'll make this Carl Soule. Carl Lee Soule. Okay. And this one here, again, scrub through, and you can see all the same animation is retained. Same thing again, and we'll do director of photography, and this will be Frederick Fung. Okay. So now you can see I've got all three of these titles happening, animating, do the exact same thing, all based off of having this template. Okay, kind of looks a little Star Trek-y. I kind of like that. I don't hate it. But we're watching this back, and someone says, I think that this bottom line should be bold. It should be. We need to change the style there. So I'm going to select this text layer, and I'm going to make a change to the style, to the weight here. All right, of that text. Oh, it might help to select the text as well. So we're going to go from extra light to medium. Okay. And maybe while I'm at it, I'm actually going to change the fill color to sort of a very pale cerulean blue, all right, with that drop shadow. And maybe I'm actually going to back off the opacity of that drop shadow even more because now the text is blue. Blur it like this. Now you'll notice when I do that, now under Master Styles, it shows that the master style has been modified. And because that master style exists on each of these, when I make the change here, I have two options. I can sync from the master style, reverting back to the way it was, or I can push it to to the same master style to modify that change. So let's go ahead and push that change. So now, when I play this back, all right, and blue was a bad choice, but we can discuss that later. There's Carl in blue, okay, in bold. And there's Frederick in blue, in bold. So why is this awesome? Because again, when you set up that master template relationship inside the template, change it in one, it ripples throughout your timeline, okay? Very, very useful, all right? So that's kind of a very basic overview of creating a motion graphics template on the Premiere side. So let's skip over now to After Effects and talk about some of the crazy things you can do here. So this one, let's go ahead and play this back. And by the way, that's not a visual glitch. That's actually a glitch by design inside of this template. This is a title sequence built in After Effects that we're going to turn into a motion graphics template. And what you can see here is we've got this kind of low poly animation floor happening. We've got, again, just some very basic text layers flying on, animating on. There's actual video in this, which is creating that glitch effect. And then there's an expression tied to the text and that glitch to kind of glitch the text with that video. So in After Effects, one key differentiator is that, one, you've got more effects that you can leverage in your arsenal that can become part of the template. Two, you can use expressions as part of your template. And three, there's really just so much more you can do, including even adding audio or sound effects or anything. These can all be packaged up and can be part of your motion graphics template that can be used in Premiere Pro. So let's go ahead and turn this into a motion graphics template. Now, the way you do that is a little bit different. So I'm going to get this I like this frame right here. So the first thing you do, you're going to open up the Essential Graphics panel in After Effects. All right. Oh, and here I'm going to get rid of these. Let me get rid of these things down here. All right. So, and hold on, I'm also going to save a new version of this. Okay. So the first thing is we're going to give it a title in advance. Remember, we gave Premiere the title at the end, and I called this AE Low Poly Title. And we choose the comp that we're referencing, which is this comp here. Now, to begin the process of building the template, you're going to click on this Solo Supported Properties. And what this is going to do is it's going to scan through your comp, and it's going to show you all of the properties inside of here that can be added to the motion graphics template. And by adding those properties to the motion graphics template, the editor will be able to modify them. Okay? What can he or she modify? Well, they can modify things like the actual text, for one. So let's go down to our source text layers and drag it in. And we'll call this first line text. Let's take the second one here. Second line text. Okay. And then I can even add a divider with a comment and say the next parameters deal with color, light, and position. All right. scroll back up over here, and let's grab, say, our title left, right, adjust. Let's drag that in. Title LR. And you can see you can edit the range that can be used. Similarly, let's grab our title up, down. Title. Oops, sorry, I just deleted it there. Title up, down. Drift speed. Why don't we grab that? Drift speed. And again, you've got your range, slightly different range than the title shift, as you can see. And let's get something with lighting here, lighting direction. Okay, so there's some 3D lighting in here. That's pretty cool. Light direction. And lastly, background tint color. So we call this BG color. And let's get that middle line color, okay? What are we doing here? We're giving the editor options of things that they ultimately might want to modify in that template, okay? So we drag in all the parameters that we want them to be able to edit. They're not touching the animation of that low poly floor. They're not touching the glitch animation, although we did give them some drift options and, again, some lighting stuff. And now we're ready to convert this into a template. We want to choose a thumbnail. You drag your current time indicator to the frame that you want to represent the thumbnail and set the poster frame. It does that. And now we're going to choose Export as a Motion Graphics Template. So we do that. It packages it up. And now, once again, we choose where do we want to save it. Local, library, shared library. Click OK. And it's done. So now when we go back to Premiere Pro, let's just go ahead and I'll mute these. If I go to my CC libraries, you can see it just updated right there. Now, waiting for me is our AE low poly title, created in After Effects, and it tells us it's 69 megs. You can store up to 2 gigs of media, of data, inside the Motion Graphics template. I don't necessarily recommend that, but again, you may have some 4K backplates or something else, or some imagery or some other things that are part of that template. It's conceivable that it could get that large, especially if you're using expressions to change background imagery and things, if you want something like for a title sequence intro. So we support up to 2 gigs. So now let's go ahead and take this low poly title and drag it down into the timeline. Give it a second to load. Now, one fundamental difference between Motion Graphics templates today and Motion Graphics coming in this next version of Premiere. The version that you have on your desktop today requires you to have After Effects installed to run. Even if it's just a trial, you need to have After Effects installed, because when you take an After Effects generated Motion Graphics template, Premiere actually launches a headless version of After Effects in the background, and then is able to use the cached frames and everything that you would normally do in After Effects. In the next version that's coming, we've actually taken the engine that caches the frames and does all of that work under the hood, and it's already in Premiere. So you don't need After Effects installed. And because of that, you'll see, just like in After Effects, as I scrub through, it starts to cache those frames so that you can get to actual real-time playback here. And for any of you who've played with this, again, in today's version, this is just so much faster and so much more efficient. Again, it just looks super cool, okay? So now, when we select that template and go into Essential Graphics, now you can see all of those parameters that we made editable, here they are. So, first line text, and let's make this first assistant director. I'm going to give that role to my buddy Carl Soule. And when I do that, you see it automatically updates. And the key with this, of course, is that all the animation and everything is retained. Okay? We've got our title left-right adjust. See that here. Title up-down. Our drift speed, again, that's that expression that's causing it to kind of wiggle left to right. Our lighting direction. Oh, whoops, wrong one. Lighting direction. Here. So we want to place the light perhaps coming from up here. And then our background color and our middle line color. So maybe if we're going for the earth, maybe that's a little too light. Maybe we'll make this kind of a little more dark and sinister. Or maybe we'll take it to just like a different place altogether, something like that. Okay? And we could then do something like an opacity blend mode. Maybe we'll screen this. That's a little too purple. Okay. A designer, I am not. All right, that's a little bit better. Okay. So now you can see, again, and we can fade this on if we want to. We've got our low poly, we've got our title sequence intro, we've got that glitch effect happening. And all of this contained in the motion graphics template, which we've now saved via CC libraries, okay? So incredible power and flexibility inside these templates. Now, one thing I want to point out is that in the existing version of Premiere and After Effects, or I should say in the existing version of Premiere, you have a whole series of presets that we gave you, all right? Captions, credits, overlays, lower thirds, slates, some social media ones, basic titles, and then we've got some After Effects created lower thirds, like news package. You can see if we go into some of these here. So we've got some like lower third graphics. This one's got a nice little spinny globe in it that you can control. And you can just see like a couple little pop-up news transitions and things. These are available to you today. Well, obviously, we wanted to give you more. So coming in this next version of Premiere Pro via Adobe Stock, you'll be able to search on titles, lower thirds, multiple other categories. And we're going to be offering you a whole series of both free and pay motion graphics templates. These were designed from some top designers from around the world, and you can see they look not only timely, but very, very modern, super cool. You can tell which ones were built in After Effects because just visually they're super cool looking. They've got lots of lighting and 3D styled effects, things like this. This is a free one right here. I was mentioning at the top of the hour before, we were showcasing a little stinger video. A lot of these are, the free ones are really quite something. This ink blotch one is really cool. So just to give you an idea, if I were to go into my libraries here, let me just show you some of the free ones that we've got. Here's ink blotch. Let's go ahead and turn this on. And I'll hide this layer below. And again, these were created by some really awesome designers. This one I believe was done by John Wilkinson. If you go into the parameters, you can see that they've given you crazy stuff that you can edit here. So you've got obviously the text, Jason Levine, live at IBC on FB for Facebook for those watching, okay? And it just instantly updates right there. Text scale, position, and then you've got a whole series of sliders dedicated to the ink blotches themselves. And like I mentioned, as we scrub through this, it's going to cache those frames. And then you've got camera and light settings, light flicker, camera shake, spotlight width. And then you've got stylizing settings. So these templates will be available to you in the next version via Adobe Stock, and later in the year you will also be able to monetize your own, sell your own via Adobe Stock as well, and really become part of that community. So Essential Graphics Panel and Motion Graphics templates, you can create them in Premiere Pro very, very simply, save them out to your CC libraries. On the After Effects side, it's where you can get even more creative. You can use expressions, you can add video and audio, you can determine what parameters you want editable by your Premiere Pro user, save them to a CC library, and they can keep on working. So if you haven't checked these out already, I highly invite you to check them out today. Again, you'll find all these presets that I showed you moments ago in your Essential Graphics panel. You'll have these under the Browse section here. Captions, credits, subtitles, a lot of lower thirds and things of that nature, and these are all built in Premiere. You can check these out and start using them today. Up next, my colleague Carl Soleil is coming up again. He's going to be talking about VR. So VR workflows, if you're interested in 360 VR, you'll want to stick around for that. We've got 2 more hours here at IBC. So thanks for sticking around and for sticking around. Hold out your hands. We've got some t-shirts coming at you. Wow. You can tell I am not a sporty guy. Yes, reach over. There you go. Wow, it's embarrassing watching me throw. Right? Clear sign of techie. I'll try. Ugh. Oh, sorry. I just impaled someone in the audience there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next time. Thank you.